Hi everyone, welcome once again on my channel, and this is the next video in the topic of left politics in colonial India. My name is Chandrabhal Tiwari Om, and this slide is telling something about me. I'm an history educator right now on Unacademy platform. I teach students who are preparing for NTA UGC NET examination. Apart from that, I have done my masters in history from University of Delhi. Right now, I'm pursuing PhD from Lucknow University, and I'm also a research associate in an ICSSR project in BHU. I worked as guest faculty in University of Delhi as well, and blah blah blah. Okay, so now once one more thing is that if you are new here, if you are seeing me for the first time or seeing my video for the first time, so you can follow me on some other platform, social media platform as well. You can join me on YouTube, which you are seeing, so you can just click on the subscribe button, and also you can find me on Instagram by the same name, Ohms History. Just search Ohms History and you'll find me there. If you are actively looking for NTUGC net preparation, so you can join me on Telegram as well. The name of the group is Ohms History only. You can join me here I actively post update about the recent classes or upcoming classes which I'm going to take, and I also talk about or share some resources for this examination as well. Now let's start our discussion, but before I start the discussion, I just want to warn you guys that this discussion you might find a bit boring, so that's why you need an extra attention here, because the things which I will discussing here, they are very important. Okay, so yes, you need to be extra careful while watching this video. Now first, let's start with rise and growth of leftism within Congress. Okay, so now the tilt of Congress leaders towards socialism, it was already there since the very inception of Congress, but the real growth of leftism within Congress, it happened in the post-war phase. Okay, in the post-war phase, and this clear emergence of the left-wing group, it occurred during the post-World War time period. Okay, post-World War time period. Before that, we should keep in mind this thing, that the Congress at that point of time, or during the Indian national movement, it was an umbrella organization. It had so many ideological groups which had different tendencies. So it was not like the party had only one ideological leaning, and the people who are not adhering to that ideological leaning, they cannot be the part of that organization. So it was more than a political organization, it was a movement in itself. Okay, it was a movement in itself, and that's why we find that the people from different background, people from different ideological tendencies, they were the part of Indian National Congress. Now if we talk about the left wing leadership, so how it started, so like I have mentioned, it started in the post First World War years of recession, the period in which the prices were rising, and the repression of the government was also increasing, so that nobody could actually question the government in a more volatile manner. Now, during this time period, non-cooperation movement, which left behind deep marks of frustration on account of the sudden manner of its withdrawal, because as Mahatma Gandhi has promised that if everyone follow the steps provided by him, they will get the Swaraj in within a year. But here, when the country it was fully charged and they were doing non-cooperation movement, suddenly Mahatma Gandhi he withdrew this movement. So many could not appreciate the moral grounds on which Gandhiji chose to withdraw the movement, and felt let down by the call for retreat at a time when they believed they had cornered the British Raj. Now, there was also disappointment at the failure to achieve Swaraj within 1 year, which was promised during non-cooperation movement, and popular anguish, it led to tensions in some areas, especially in the countryside between the landlords and the tenants, and that's why we find so many peasant movement emerging during this time period. The misadventure also prompted some of Gandhiji's followers to return hurriedly to the safety of constitutional politics. Like we have seen, there was the groups which were called as Swarajist group. They started talking about we should follow the constitutional method. What was worse, a crack appeared in the most impressive of Gandhian achievement during non-cooperation movement, that was Hindu-Muslim amity or Hindu-Muslim unity, which was seen during non-cooperation movement, it quickly waned away after the movement was withdrawn. Now, this disquieting aftermath of the non-cooperation movement, it compelled some thoughtful congressmen, particularly those who did not join either the camp of no changes or that of the pro changes. Who are these no changes and pro changes? No changes who decided to continue following the methods of Mahatma Gandhi, of some affirmative actions, whereas the pro changes, they wanted to participate in the assembly elections and become the part of assemblies and like challenge the government inside the assembly. So they were the pro changes. Now, in other words, there was this time period when like those people, those congressmen who did not join these pro changes or no changes, there was this search for an appropriate and alternate ideology started happening. So socialism within the Congress, it was born out of this intense intellectual and political exercise. Okay, uh, now before that, during the 1920s, there is one more thing which is happening. Okay, in 1920s, there is something more which is happening, which is that the Congress was also getting, or Congress leadership, the left wing basically within the Congress, they were getting inspired by Soviet revolution, and also they were dissatisfied with the Gandhian ideas, okay, and his political program, and they began advocating some radical solutions for the economic, political and social ills of the country. At this point of time in 1930s, we have seen that the Great Depression of happened, and the Great Depression actually affected the capitalist world. And but this Great Depression, it did not have that much of influence over Soviet Union. Soviet Union, it was successfully running its 5-year plan, which again kind of pick the fancies of these leaders. Okay, so basically two leaders in Indian National Congress who rose to this occasion. It is your Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, and under him we see that the growth of socialism in the late 20s and 30s started happening inside the Congress. Now, Nehru played an important part in popularizing the vision of a socialist India, both within the national movement and in the Congress. Nehru argued that political freedom must mean the economic emancipation of the masses, and he had gathered some first hand knowledge of the agrarian problems by working among the peasants of Pratapgarh and Raebareli in UP. Pratapgarh में movement आपका चल रहा था under Baba Ramachandra, and he even gave his moral support to that movement during 1920-21. Though committed very loyally to Mahatma Gandhi's leadership, Jawaharlal Nehru, he started becoming critical of his decision to withdraw this non-cooperation movement. He also did not see eye to eye with either no changes or the pro changes. He felt disturbed by the growing communal bitterness among the Hindus, Muslims, and to an extent even among the Sikhs. So during this stage of perplexity and confusion, Jawaharlal Nehru, he got a trip of his lifetime. What happened? He got an opportunity in 1926 to go to Europe. Now, this was a very enlightening trip for Jawaharlal Nehru. During this visit, he got the chance to explore newer views in order to arrive at a better appreciation of the freedom struggle in India. Now, Nehru, he already had been familiar with some ideas of Fabian socialism. What is this Fabian socialism? This Fabian socialism, guys, it was popular in England, and here under this Fabian socialism or Fabian society, it was aiming to achieve socialism through democratic means. Okay, so wherever like we find that socialism as being preached by your Communist International and by USSR, it was all about like okay, you can achieve socialism by some sort of revolution. But here, this Fabian socialism, it talks about that you can achieve socialist goal via democratic means. So from the time to his student days, he knew about Fabian socialism, but he did not know much about various other forms of socialism, including Marxism. So he came to know about these things via his visit to Europe in 1926. His understanding of the relevance of socialist outlook in the populist struggle against the colonial power was still inadequate, and from the point of view of political education, therefore, Jawaharlal's 1.5 years sojourn in Europe, it proved to be very significant both for his own development and Congress Party's new orientation. Later, he took part as the representative of Indian National Congress in the International Congress Against Colonial Oppression and Imperialism, which held in Brussels in February 1927. He took part and he, in fact, represent Indian National Congress. This is a very important fact which you need to keep in your mind. Further, he in this conference where he participated in Brussels, he met the best exponent of European radical tradition as well as a large number of delegates from China, from Mexico, and some other Latin American nations, African nations, Asian countries as well. The exchange of views and experience deeply influenced Jawaharlal Nehru, who was appointed a member of the executive committee of this League Against Imperialism and for National Independence. This League Against Imperialism and National Independence, or League Against Imperialism and Colonial Oppression, this league, guys, it was set up in Brussels only in 1927. In 1927, the Brussels Conference, which I was talking about just here in February 1927, this league has been found in 1927. One more thing, I know like I will be digressing if I'll be talking much about this league, but please, I just want to point towards this very fact that the term league, okay, League Against Imperialism and for national independence, or League Against Imperialism and Colonial Oppression, this term league was a kind of a sarcasm or kind of a reaction to the League of Nations, because the League of Nations, it rather than providing freedom, rather than providing or enhancing the democratic means, it actually gave its support in furthering your colonialism and imperialism. So this was kind of a counter to the League of Nations. Now from this point onward, Jawaharlal Nehru realized how the development of European capitalism, which required raw materials for industrial production and extensive markets for the finished goods, led to imperialism, and how European capitalism had fattened on the exploitation of countries in Asia, in Africa and Latin America. Now, in November 1927, Jawaharlal Nehru visited Soviet Union on an official invitation. He was greatly impressed by the novel experiments which were happening there, like in government and social reconstruction. He was also conscious of the difference between the nation building task in Russia and India, and therefore he retained his faith in Mahatma Gandhi's leadership over nationalist politics, or in the efficiency of non-violent mass movement against the British imperialism. However, he had drawn his lessons from the experience of Russia and desire to make full use of them in the Indian context. One more thing, one like additional information, it is during these visits only we find that how like your Jawaharlal Nehru, he got this opportunity of seeing the world pretty closely, knowing about what were the new things which were happening in the world, and that's how he wrote a work called as Glimpses of World History, which was published somewhere around 1934. Okay, please check it once. By the time he returned to India in December 1927, Jawaharlal had, for all practical purposes, turned into a socialist person. The year 1927, it witnessed a debate in the Congress. Okay, the point of debate was basically related to the extent and character of Swaraj, or self-government, that the Congress and others were struggling for. It dramatically took precedence over all other issues in 1927. Why? Because it was the year when Britishers have decided to appoint a commission which would consist solely the British members of Parliament, and this commission, it would consider the terms of the Government of India Act of 1919, and via those terms it will decide whether India was fit to receive a further installment of constitutional government or not. Yes, you guessed it right. It was a Simon Commission. Now, this visit of Simon Commission had brought to the forefront the issue of the type of constitution or the kind of independence that India should obtain for itself. By Swaraj, the Congress leaders had so far meant only dominion status for India, which the other colonies of the Britishers or the Britain they were getting. So they were like for them, Swaraj was kind of this dominion status for India within the ambit of British Empire. But now, to Jawaharlal Nehru and some of the men like him who supported his views, the acceptance of dominion status as it is as the equivalent of independence for India. It appeared not only to be a recognition of the inevitability of the British presence in India, but also perpetuation of British imperialistic exploitation of India. So what they wanted now, they wanted a clear cut complete independence. So in Madras session in December 1927, Jawaharlal Nehru moved a snap resolution demanding that real independence instead of dominion status, it should be the goal of Congress. Now this controversy came to a head on when an all party conference was convened in February 1928 at the initiative of the Congress. It decided to set up a committee headed by Motilal Nehru to decide a constitution for India as an answer to the challenge of Birkenhead. Now, which is called as Birkenhead Challenge. Now, when the Nehru Committee actually proceeded with its work on the basis of the interpreting Indian independence in terms of the attainment of dominion status, Jawaharlal had no alternative to build up an opposition. And here he, like in organizing resistance against the acceptance of dominion status and gathering support for complete independence or severance of all unequal political and economic ties with Britain, he received the obvious help from Subhash Chandra Bose. Now, Subhash Chandra Bose, however, he was different temperamentally from Jawaharlal Nehru, but like Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose was also critical of the withdrawal of this non-cooperation movement, and he was not able to side with the no changes. Despite his joining the pro-changes at that point of time period, because his political guru C.R. Das, he was the brain behind the pro-changes, Subhash Chandra's heart, it was not with the pro-changes. For a time after non-cooperation movement, we see that Subhas was busy with the civic affairs, with the municipality affairs of Calcutta, and Jawaharlal Nehru with those of Allahabad. But at this juncture of his career, Subhash appeared to have shared some of the confusion and anxiety which it started disturbing Jawaharlal Nehru and others. We will see that at this very point of time, Subhash Chandra Bose, he was not very clear about his own understanding of socialism because he has not gotten any opportunity which Jawaharlal Nehru had obtained from a breath of fresh air which he got when he visited abroad. Also, Subhash Chandra Bose had not gained the advantage which Jawaharlal had to a certain extent of working among the toiling masses, and he remained mindful of their aspiration only from distance. Consequently, what happened with all his leftist leaning and radical postures, Subhash Chandra Bose was not assured and clear about the socialist ideas as Nehru. Anyway, another point of difference which happened between them was Subhash Chandra Bose, he did not share Nehru's commitment to Mahatma Gandhi's leadership of the Congress, whereas Jawaharlal Nehru, he accepted that Mahatma Gandhi is needed for Congress because of building the mass movement, because of his control or capture of the masses. But uh, Subhash Chandra Bose, he was not as clear as of now I am talking about. He had, however, no difference with Jawaharlal Nehru on the point of urgency of mass mobilization and popular action, and also no difficulty in endorsing Jawaharlal's anti-imperialist views. What happened in August 1928 when your Nehru report came forward and it talked about dominion status? Jawaharlal Nehru, he decided to form a pressure group within the Congress with Iyengar and Subhash Chandra Bose. The group was Independence for India League. This is also a very important fact. Like I have mentioned, the aim behind this move was to counter the concept of this dominion status, to plead for complete independence of India from the British, and to work for the establishment of an Indian republic on a socialist lines. Now Subhash Chandra Bose, he joined him and they jointly moved in a resolution at the Calcutta session of Congress, that is in December 1928, to replace the Congress goal of dominion status by complete independence, but they were not that much successful. The left-wing tendency, it also found reflection in the election of Jawaharlal Nehru as president for 1929, 1935, 1937, and also of Subhash Chandra Bose for 1938 and 1939. Nehru here argued that political freedom must mean the economic emancipation of the masses. In fact, in 1929, Jawaharlal Nehru became the president of the Congress, and in Lahore session, he adopted this complete independence as the goal. We all know that how important this whole conference was. But the content of the complete independence, even right now, it was not very much clear. The trend of thinking of leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and a large number of their followers who had already been calling themselves leftist congressmen were communicating to the people in general and to the youth through different organizations like the Youth League, the Hindustani Seva Dal, the Naujawan Bharat Sabha and the volunteers movement, the student through the student organization and conferences, and the workers mainly through All India Trade Union Congress, whose presidency was taken up by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1929 and Subhash Chandra Bose in 1931. Again, a very important fact. Before moving forward, I just want to talk about this the Hindustani Seva Dal. So, this Hindustani Seva Dal, what happened? It is basically in 1923, following the flag satyagraha which happened at Nagpur. Okay, flag satyagraha which happened at Nagpur. Many activists of the Congress, okay, in 1923, this flag satyagraha happened. Flag Satyagraha, Nagpur. Just read about this flag satyagraha of Nagpur, which happened in 1923. Here, what happened? Many activists of the Congress, they were arrested and they were sentenced to prison. Unable to tolerate the rigors and the difficulty of prison, many of the congressmen who were arrested, they tendered written apologies to the colonial authorities. However, members of one organization called as Hubli Seva Mandal, member of one organization called as Hubli Seva Mandal. This Hubli Seva Mandal, it was found by N.S. Hardikar. N.S. Hardikar or Hardikar. He refused to surrender before the or tend any kind of apologies before the British government. This uncompromising stance gained the attention of Congress's national leadership that had gathered in Nagpur to participate in this Nagpur flag satyagraha. So it was here that the idea of establishing an organization of volunteers to combat the Raj, it was born. And at the Kakinada session of the Congress, which happened in 1923, at Kakinada session, which happened in 1923, a decision has been made. A board under Dr. N.S. Hardikar was constituted for setting up the Seva Dal or Hindustani Seva Dal. So, Hindustani Seva Mandal or Hindustani Seva Dal, it was thus formed on January 1st, 1924. On 1st January 1924, this Hindustani Seva Mandal or Hindustani Seva Dal, it has been formed. According to the resolution at Kakinada, the Dal was to work under the supervision of Congress Party's working committee, and Jawaharlal Nehru was made as its first president. So the first president of this very Hindustani Seva Dal, it was Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru. So, Dal faced much initial opposition from the congressmen who were opposed to the idea of creating a militia-like organization in the Congress, seeing it as a threat to the idea of civilian dominance and as being inconsistent with the idea of non-violence. But still, this thing continued. One more interesting information is that Umabai Kundapur, okay, Umabai Kundapur, Umabai Kundapur, she was the founding president of women's wing of the Dal. Umabai Kundapur, she was the founding president of the women's wing of the Dal. Even Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, she was also closely associated with this dal. So this is one like extra information regarding the Hindustani Seva Dal. One more thing about Naujawan Bharat Sabha, you must be knowing this Naujawan Bharat Sabha. This Naujawan Bharat Sabha, it was founded by Bhagat Singh in 1926. So why are these organizations that these leaders they kept contact with the youths? But their exposure of the nature of imperialism, their concern for the tailing people, and their anxiety for ensuring social and economic justice stirred popular imagination. Both Nehru and Bose, they contributed in their own way to expanding social base of agitation and inspiring people from various strata to take part in it. Uh, Simultaneously, their own ideas were taking a definite shape. Jawaharlal was able to give an indication of the kind of independence that was Congress must stand for in his draft for the fundamental rights that was adopted in Karachi session of Congress 1931. And here he unequivocally stated that in order to end the exploitation of the masses, political freedom must include real economic freedom of the starving millions. So here for the first time, officially Congress defined what Swaraj is. And here the economic freedom which you are seeing, just see that you will find the socialist imprint here. Because what is this economic freedom? The economic freedom is equitable distribution of the economic resources, and that is the main goal of socialism. He went on to demand like living wages for the workers, special taxes on property, and the state control of ownership of key industries mineral resources, railways, waterways, shipping, and other means of transport. Personally, Jawaharlal was even willing to do away with the institution of private property, which, according to him, gives dangerous power to individuals over society as a whole. It was, however, very radical idea, and he knew that many of the congressmen themselves they are not going to accept this demand, and that's why this demand was withdrawn, or it was not that much enthusiastically pursued. The content of the fundamental rights and economic program of 1931 should be regarded as an important step in the march towards Congress socialism. In fact, in the closing stage of the civil disobedience movement, while Jawaharlal renewed his interest in the agitation of the UP peasantry, where in Allahabad, Raebareli, Etawah, Unnao, and Kanpur, he was like very much engrossed in those peasant agitation. Subhashchandra Bose, at this point of time, he was hovered around the idea of this building a working class movement. Both, however, continued to exercise their influence over the youth, the students, and the underprivileged, and inspired them towards a radical militant temper. In and out of jail and visiting Europe in between. In fact, Subhash Chandra Bose went to Europe in 1930, like from 1933 to 1936, and again in 1937-38. And Jawaharlal Nehru, he went to Europe in 1930 and in 1938. Both of them they expounded their viewpoints further. Subhash confined himself progressively to the discussion on the conducting of India's struggle for freedom, looking for new styles and strategies to intensify it, and getting impatient for a showdown with the authorities. And that impatience we see during Haripura or Tripuri crisis. Jawaharlal was equally concerned with the acceleration of anti-imperialist struggle within the country, and he favored making suitable changes with the changing international political situation. To attain success against British imperialism, Jawaharlal he continued to advocate that it was incumbent on a national organization like the Congress to mobilize all section of people, more so the vast majority belonging to the lower strata. And it is here that like uh, he recognized that unless the causes of these lower strata people, it is going to be addressed by the Congress against their immediate oppressors who were in league with imperialism. Who are these immediate oppressors? Oppressors like landholders, landlords, and all. So unless these issues are going to be dealt with, the greatest possible mass mobilization could not be realized. So he was very much clear on this very agenda. For fulfilling this essential, sorry, for fulfilling this essential condition of successful anti-imperialist people's struggle, it was also necessary for the Congress to have a blueprint of the future of an independent, liberated, and secular India. For that, Jawaharlal continuously pleaded for the adoption of the principles of democratic socialism in India, and he eventually succeeded in influencing the Congress to take a pro-socialist turn. And that thing happened when he was elected the Congress president in Lucknow, December 1935. Here he gave a speech, and that speech did not go down well with various like industrialist group, and he again like kind of I will return back to this speech of December 1935. But yeah, in Lucknow session, in Fazpur session, Jawaharlal Nehru elaborated his socialist ideas with greater clarity through the innumerable speeches being made, the discussion be held, and the statements be issued. So basically, this Lucknow speech, which was given by Jawaharlal Nehru, it created a background for a manifesto which was called as Bombay Manifesto. Bombay Manifesto, which came out in 1936. Okay, Bombay Manifesto, which came out in 1936. You guys need to know about Bombay Manifesto 1936. If you know, please do let me know in the comments below. Or if you don't know, then like you can ask me as well. I can make a small video explaining this Bombay Manifesto. Anyway, moving on. So the Congress here accepted certain agrarian program in its Fazpur session. Why Fazpur session is also important? Because it was the only and the first like Congress session which is happening in village. Fazpur is in Maharashtra. So in 1936 this session happened, and Congress accepted so many agrarian demands here. And if we look at these demands, so what were these demands? Reduction of land revenue, abolition of feudal levies, abolition of forced labor, fixity of tenures, fixation of wages for agricultural laborers. So all these demands, they were there of Indian National Congress in this Fazpur session, which in itself is very it proved very important. Okay, now Jawaharlal, he did succeed in making some significant advances, like on the agrarian question, by contributing to the formulation of liberal Fazpur Congress agrarian program, which we just saw. On the issue of constitution, he highlighted the demand for an elected constituent assembly. On the question of civil liberties, he ordered the Congress provincial ministries to release all the political prisoners. On responsible government as well, he championed the cause of the Prajamandal movement, which he talked about in Fazpur session, in the Indian states against the tyranny of their rulers. And on the worldwide campaign against fascism, the worst form of imperialism, by taking the side of the forces of progress in the Spanish Civil War, by protesting against the Italian attack on Ethiopia, and by organizing relief for China when it was attacked by Japan. Okay, the relief for China, they also uh, celebrated China Day here, Fazpur session, China Day here. And there was a group actually sent from India, a group of doctors under the leadership of, I won't tell you, you guys are going to tell me who was the leader of that medical group which was sent, which doctor was basically the leader of that medical group which was sent in China when Japan has attacked on Manchuria of China. Okay, anyway, comparatively, if we talk about Subhash Chandra Bose, so Subhash Chandra Bose's tenure as the Congress president following his election in Haripura session, it was not so attractive from the ideological point of view, and because and besides his seeking re-election for the Congress presidentship next year, it sharply divided the Congress into the leftist and the rightist camp. In fact, Subhas nevertheless left his socialist mark on the Congress by laying emphasis on the industrialization of India and planned economic growth on the Soviet pattern. He was instrumental in the formation of a national planning committee of the Congress under Jawaharlal's chairmanship. Okay, he was instrumental in that. This was the first step in this planning committee. It was the first step in the direction of initiating planning process in modern India. And the Congress ministry, which was formed in 1937 in several provinces, worked on the socialist line to some extent. In fact, they took measures to ameliorate the conditions of the workers and the peasants, and also for protection of their rights and interests, to ameliorate, like to better the condition of the workers. By the end of 1930s, the thoughtful and the forward-looking among the congressmen appear to have resolved most of the questions that perplexed them in the aftermath of the non-cooperation movement or throughout the latter half of the 1920s. Okay, so this was basically the growth of socialism, guys, which we have talked about. Growth of socialism within the Congress under Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhashchandra Bose. However, we haven't touched one very important topic, that there was another group which was formed within the Congress. It was Congress Socialist Party. So that we will going to talk about in the next video. Thank you so much for watching this session. Once again, if you do not follow me here, so follow my channel. I will continuously posting such videos which are going to help you in this examination, in the preparation of this examination and some other examination as well, because my goal is to make the concept clear to you guys, and because if your concepts are clear, then retaining the facts, memorizing the facts, they become easy. So you can follow me on YouTube, you can follow me by the same name, Ohm's History. You can search me on Instagram as well, and if you are actively looking for the preparation of NTA UGC net, you can follow me on Ohm's History on Telegram as well. Just search Ohm's History, you will find me there. So thank you so much, and with the promise of meeting you again in the next video, where I will discuss something more about this leftist politics. Bye bye. Take care, guys.